Welcome to episode 37 of the Practice Squad, a show where we talk about football, shoot the breeze, and make even the replacement refs cringe. I'm your host and fourth string quarterback, Jeremy, joined each and every week by my co host and backup long snapper, Joseph. How's it going, man?
Hey man, best part about COVID is that we have delayed basketball, so we have basketball playoffs going on at the same time
You've got basketball playoffs going on, and I mean, there
in
might
the
not
NFL.
be football happening if the guys keep getting hurt at the rate they're getting hurt. So,
That is true. We'll have to go make a basketball show now.
yes, we will not. So we're live right here on YouTube every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Pacific. If you like what you hear and want to support us, don't hesitate to like, share, and if you're feeling extra generous, subscribe. You can like, share, and subscribe even if you think you could run this show better than us. So this week we've got games to talk about, injuries to lament, articles to laugh about, commentators to make fun of, and of course, close it all off with our wild, wild game predictions. So there's a lot to cover, so let's go ahead and dive right in to our first segment of the night, which is Games of the Week, starting with, as promised, Ravens at Texans, which we had hoped to be perhaps a little bit better of a game than it turned out to be. Ravens seemed to kind of command this game from the start, although I thought that the Texans were good competition in the first half, and then it's kind of got away from them towards the end. But there were a few kind of crazy plays that stood out to me. The first one was uh, when Deshaun Watson evaded, I think it was three tackles. Was it three tackles? Um, and then
300 maybe.
yeah, 300. And then the, I guess one of the reasons this play stood out to me was because on the very next play, the uh, Texans went for it on 4th and 1 on their own 34.
Yeah.
um, so that one was pretty amazing. He was just really elusive in that game, and obviously showed his athletic ability. Joseph, were there any big plays that stood out to you in this one?
Well, really quick on the Watson play, the Texans, they should be allowed to have a 12th member on the offensive side of the ball.
Oh
They should
yes.
just be given an extra offensive lineman because apparently the Texans don't want to protect their franchise quarterback. We've seen this before, and I think we'll keep seeing it if they can't figure it out. It's like, poor guy, man. He's gonna burn his legs out in 3 or 4 years. He keeps having to evade all the time. He's gonna get hit. So they need to figure that out. They lost their wide receiver, but they got a running back, Watson. Now they need to get offensive line because they can't have him running around for the rest of his career. Other
I,
than that, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's ironic because they traded away the house to pick up a O line, O lineman last year. They traded away Hopkins. They picked up Laramie Tunsil from the Dolphins, but they also lost more
Yep.
pieces. And all of that was for the purpose of trying to protect Watson, but then clearly, as they showed in this game, they did not succeed at doing that.
Yep.
So
The other big play. Oh, the other one was the end of the first half. And what's up with the Harbaughs and complaining? Remember Jim? Jim used to be pretty good at that. I'm sure you remember that.
but he was always
Um,
right. So
yeah, remember that fourth time out against the Vikings? Anyways,
Jim Harbaugh can never do anything wrong in my eyes.
so at the end of the first half, um, Texans are driving down looking for a field goal, and they do a quick little play at the middle for a few yards, little passing play at the middle, and they had plenty of time to get down there and spike the ball. Like the guy was getting up around 13, 14 seconds left. Could have easily spiked the ball, no concern. And the Ravens players were, for a little bit, kind of, I don't know if they're pulling a prank on him, but preventing the wide receiver from getting up,
Yeah.
thus delaying the refs to get the ball. And then the refs like go and talk to the Ravens players, and then realizes, oh, I need to find the ball so I can set it so they can. And the offensive line's already sitting there waiting for like 2 seconds. They get the ball. There's only 3 seconds left, and then one of the refs realizes the issue and pauses it and says, "Hey, we're stopping. put 4 seconds on the game. And then you see John Harbaugh obviously upset, going to one of the refs. Like, okay, if you didn't see what happened, fine. John, we'll take some slack. But you better go watch the replay because you're dead wrong and calm down. Because, one, your players are causing the delay, which then caused the refs to not forget what their job was, to find the ball and get it set for the offensive line. The Texans would have spiked it in time, no problem. And it was the refs and the Ravens' faults. So I thought that was kind of funny. And I'm really glad, the refs, so many times in sports, especially basketball and football, where refs do things that influence the game. And it just driven me crazy that they don't fix their mistakes. They don't do something about it. How many times is a ref in the way of a wide receiver and he gets decked and it's like an incomplete pass? And there's no do-over. It's like, how does that not count as a do-over? The ref, it's his fault. That was an incomplete pass. Are you kidding me? Get out of the way, find the ref for being dumb, or redo the play, or all of the above. Not just, next play, second down. That's ridiculous. So I'm glad the refs made this decision because it was the right call. So good for them.
Yeah, and I that those are all good points. The hitting the receiver one is kind of a obvious case of they should just do it over, just do the down over. But hey, how about that interception by Peters?
Dude,
that was a crazy athletic play.
How was it? He came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I don't think Watson really made a mistake because he wasn't the guy covering. He just came from a different angle and appeared out of nowhere and made an acrobatic catch. That was great.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen a man horizontal that high off the ground before catching a football. That was pretty impressive. So it was stuff like that. I don't blame Watson for that, really. That was a case where the receiver was in the right spot, would have caught the ball, and there was just a crazy athletic play by a defensive back. So yeah, overall, like I said, I think that the Ravens kind of dominated. They dominated time of possession, 35 minutes of the 60 minutes. They dominated on the ground, 230 rushing yards versus the Texans' measly 51. The Texans' O-line did not play well. J.J. Watt had a good day. He had 2 sacks and a pass batted down. And I overall, I thought Watson looked pretty good. The stats didn't necessarily show it, but so yeah. Did you have any kind of general comments about this one?
Yeah. So apparently Mark Andrews, the Ravens tight end, he likes to hurdle guys, and most of the time he fails. I've seen him try to hurdle people so many times, and it doesn't really help. So wonder where he gets the motivation from, but he needs to stop before he's injured. One thing I've noticed, and I think we mentioned this last year, we certainly mentioned it, I think 2 years ago with Mahomes, is Lamar Jackson does a really good job of changing the angle of his throws. He might throw sidearm sometimes. He'll do the shovel pass. He'll throw over the top. And while Aaron Rodgers has done that before, I think Mahomes and Jackson have kind of revolutionized that, or they've taken it to the next level. And that's going to be a big step for the next quarterbacks, because that helps them to throw at different angles and throw around defenders. And Jackson really used that to his advantage this game. So it's really cool to see that. And he's good at it. But he needs to learn how to slide on some of his running plays. Now, the audience knows that I despise the quarterback sliding rule.
And so do I.
And the quarterback should be allowed to get decked if they're going to run for it, especially with the athletic and strong quarterbacks we have now. But under the current rule, to take advantage of it, because he's going to increase his chance of getting injured, because I don't think he slid on several of his running plays when he could have. And then I think the last one I'll end on here is the Ravens look good. They're well balanced. They have a great quarterback, a great running game, and a great defense. And I think they're one of the Super Bowl favorites.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think they're seem to be just as well rounded as they were last year. They're definitely scary, and I would not be surprised if I saw them at a minimum in the AFC Championship game this year.
Yeah.
So, all right, so we'll move on to our second game. This was our highlight game of the week. Patriots at Seahawks. This was a 35-30 Seahawks victory, although it should have been a 36-35 Patriots victory and I'll let Joseph complain about Bill Belichick in a minute. But there were several interesting moments in this game. There was the Quandre Diggs ejection for helmet to helmet on defenseless receiver, which interestingly, I've now seen 2 of those ejections already this year through 2 weeks. And I think this might be a point of emphasis, that the dumb referee point of emphasis thing that the NFL publishes every year. I think it is, because I've seen plays like this in past years where there's just a 15-yard penalty and they move on. I think they're going to be cracking down on this more.
Though I actually don't know. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with the call, but it wasn't blatant, and I don't think it was really helmet to helmet. Now, granted, I didn't.
Oh, it was very helmet to helmet.
Then I did not. I only saw the back angle, so I did not see that. But it was a bang bang play. So I did not see the helmets part, but it was a bang bang play. So he didn't lunge, did he? He didn't jump for him. Kind of ran into him, didn't he?
No, it was a lunge. It was a dive.
Okay, then man, the angle that I saw from the highlight version just did not show that at all. So I'll have to go back and look at that. So I'll
yeah, I rewatched it at a couple different angles, and it was pretty bad. I thought it was pretty bad.
Never mind. I'll watch that later.
And then there was the crazy DK Metcalf catch, the basket catch with an arm that looked like it was going to deflect the ball away but didn't. And then I know you wanted to talk about the David Moore play. That was a pretty epic play.
Oh, yeah. I mean, turning around to catch the ball and then just have his foot touch the pylon, which counts as a second foot inbounds. So, yeah, just a great catch to have the concentration. Both the David Moore reception and the DK Metcalf are, individually difficult, but for different reasons. So, dude, Russell Wilson was slinging it in this game. He was slinging it like I've never seen him before. Like he had some juice behind a lot of his throws.
And yeah, and honestly, that was how they were successful. I felt like the short passing game wasn't really working too well for them. But then when he slung it, he was getting touchdowns left and right. He had 5 touchdowns in that game. So I always marvel at this, because every Seattle game, no matter who they're playing, no matter where they are, there's always a Seattle receiver that manages to have a just 2 feet, just barely inbounds, epic, miraculous reception, either for a touchdown or some deep pass for a first down in a critical situation. Like, it always happens without fail. It's pretty amazing. So if you're ever watching a Seattle game and a play like that hasn't happened yet, and you're rooting for the team against them, just wait. It'll be third quarter, probably late in the fourth quarter, where Seattle will have allowed the other team to kind of come back a little bit, and then Russell Wilson will crush your hopes with one of these epic, barely 2 feet inside bounds catches. Just watch, it'll happen.
I'm curious to know what the passer rating is between him and Lockett, because I remember a few years ago we saw that stats where they had like the highest. They had like a 117, 118 passer rating between Lockett and.
Oh, wasn't that Doug Baldwin?
I thought it was Lockett, dude.
I think maybe it was Lockett, but I thought he had a really good percentage with Baldwin too.
I wouldn't doubt if he had good with both, but I'd be curious to see what it is with Lockett now, because that guy's. It's crazy, man. Like him and Lockett are just ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he really more so than I think every other quarterback in the league, save a couple, really elevates the receivers on his team. He's doing it in the same way that I thought Peyton Manning took otherwise average receivers and made them look really good.
Yeah, that's true.
So I got a comment on Cam Newton real quick. Not all the credit goes to Russell Wilson. Cam Newton, first of all, that 55-yard pass to Edelman, I mean, he still has a cannon. It's accurate. It's fast. He still is not afraid to rush. And man, this is what Cam Newton looks like when he has an O-line.
Yeah, dude, he looked
Like,
good. Like he was sharp.
I guess the Panthers O-line has just been terrible for years because with the time he had in the pocket, he looked really good.
Yeah, no, he did, and there was some play calling issues besides the end, which we'll get to, but where sometimes they did like an option play that wasn't the most efficient. But overall, yeah, Cam looked really good, and I think the Patriots, um, are going to knock on the Bills' door for the East this year, and I have a little more hope in them with Cam Newton. So, um, yeah, overall it was a shootout between both of them, and that was exciting to see.
Yeah, I my confidence in the Patriots definitely increased after I saw Cam's performance. So looking forward to seeing what they can do going forward. So yeah, let's get to the end of the game and you can talk about the unfortunate crash and burn for the Patriots.
Bill Belichick is supposed to be one of the brightest minds in the game, and he is. But in that game against Seattle, towards the end, he was not. Cam Newton had already run that same play 2 or 3 times earlier, with one of them being a touchdown and another one not working out. One thing I noticed, Cam Newton is not as fast. Well, he was never like lightning fast as a quarterback, and he was fast for a quarterback, but not like Lamar Jackson or anything. He's a bigger guy, strong, but not super fast. And I think he has lost half a step. So that some of his running. So what is? I mean, it was so obvious that was a run play, and it's gonna be the same one. And even the announcer in the condensed version was like calling it. It's like, oh, the fullback's gonna come over and block, and he's gonna, run. It's like it was too obvious. Seahawks were lined up like it was a run. Everyone knew, even though there's a few people in the stadium, everyone knew what was gonna happen. And yet Belichick went with it, especially after he repeated that play several times before in the game. One of them or two of them being already near the goal line. You can't do that. That's where you have the perfect opportunity to do a fake, like you do like the Tim Tebow jump pass, or you do a trick play, which they actually had done earlier as well. So that's the opportunity to make it look so obvious like a run, which in Seattle bites because it was a terrible play call and it was poorly executed because his offensive line got in the way, which forced him to then run into his own player who got taken down by what was it term called? The guy, he got his legs taken out by the Seattle defender, which then Cam had nowhere to go. He had an offensive lineman to his right, and he had his own player and teammate and Seahawk defender right in front of him. So he just crashed and fell. So terrible play call, terrible execution. Belichick knows better, but not that game. So I don't know what happened. It's frustrating. They should have won. You're right. And now Seattle's 2-0.
Yeah, and not only was it a bad play call, but I also thought Cam hesitated a little bit. Like when he got the ball, it was almost like he wasn't sure where his run lane was. And then he ran forward, and by that point, the defense had already broken through and he had nowhere to go. And I was just like, oh my gosh, you did so much to get here. You had a great drive going down the field. You had a big PI to get you close, and then they had plenty of time. It was first and goal, so they weren't like down by, or not plenty of time, but it wasn't like a turnover on downs kind of situation, and they just didn't do it. So really disappointing. A couple of general comments. I already made the comment about this is what Newton looks like when he doesn't have to run for his life. He looked really good. I think he threw for almost 400 yards. The Seattle's defense is pretty bad. You're not going to think that necessarily by watching that game in a nutshell because, the Patriots lost. But really, Russell Wilson is hard carrying this team at this point. Their defensive line had no pressure on Cam all day. Their secondary is injured and not very good. They can come up with a kind of a miraculous play every now and then, like most teams in the league can do that occasionally, but their defense is pretty bad. I think most teams are going to score 25 to 30 points against them pretty consistently each week, and so it's a matter of whether or not Russell Wilson can throw for 3 or 4 touchdowns, and he'll need to in order for them to win. So that's my feeling about them. And I'm not saying that because I'm biased. I really do. There were a lot of commentators and people that were looking at their D line and saying this is the worst D line or bottom 5 D line in the league. So when you have a really bad D line, your secondary doesn't matter quite so much. So that's it for our second game of the week. I did want to spend a second talking about the 49ers, but not the game, more the meta of the game, the horrendous turf that they were playing on, which apparently, so this was MetLife Stadium, where both the Jets and the New York Giants play. They have new turf this year, which apparently the NFL has a process of testing and evaluating new turf. They have a process that they go through to do that, and that turf passed all the inspections. And 2 games into the year, Giants-Steelers game last week and a Niners-Jets game this week, there have been multiple ACLs and a variety of other injuries that have happened. And at this point, there's a lot of 49ers that are afraid to play next week because of what happened. And I will list out to you exactly what happened. Nick Bosa, ACL. Solomon Thomas, ACL. Jimmy, high ankle sprain. Originally, they thought 4 to 6 weeks. He's now week to week. It's not quite as bad as they thought. Raheem Mostert, MCL, knee sprain, 2 to 3 weeks. Tevin Coleman, knee sprain, several weeks. DJ Jones, ankle injury, unknown. Dre Greenlaw, thigh contusion, unknown. On top of, so now all of that happened just at the Jets game. Then already out, we had George Kittle with a hyperextended knee, Richard Sherman with a calf, Deebo Samuel with a Jones fracture setback, Dee Ford with neck spasms that they're now saying is a back injury with no timetable for return, and Richie James with a hamstring. So the Niners have been absolutely decimated by injuries going into the season as well as in the first couple weeks of the season. Despite all that, I actually think they still have a lot of depth, and I think they're favorites to win this next week. And they're going to get several of these guys back before the midseason when it starts to get more difficult. So it really, I still have hope for them. I don't know if, I don't know if I think they're NFC champion hope, but I do think they're still a playoff team. But this is just, I mean, everybody says 40 whiners, like only the 49ers whine about injuries, but this is, I mean, no other team this last week had to deal with this level of injury. So the 49ers easily took the cake for that. Joseph, did you have anything to say on this, or should we just move on?
Move on.
Okay. Too depressing. So let's move on to something more fun. This is our Who Wrecked Face This Week segment. Brought to you by a variety of different players. So Joseph, you're going to go first and list your players that wrecked face this week.
All right, so first we have Josh Allen, who was 24 of 35 for 417 passing yards and 4 touchdowns with 0 interceptions. Next we have Dak Prescott, 34 of 47, 450 passing yards, 1 touchdown, no picks, but he also had 3 rushing touchdowns. And then everyone knows this is coming. Russell Wilson, 21 of 28 for 288 passing yards, as well as 39 rushing yards, 5 passing touchdowns, 1 pick, which, by the way, that 1 interception wasn't really his fault. It was maybe a few inches high, but it wasn't really high. It just hit the guy's hands, went through it, and was intercepted. So that wasn't really his fault. And then lastly, with some creative license of this segment, it's not only the players who wrecked face, but who also got their face wrecked. Kirk Cousins, 11 of 26, 113 passing yards, 0 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions.
And I was thinking the Vikings were going to have a bounce back game.
Same here, dude. Same here. And now they're probably not going to make the playoffs. So we'll see. But man, ugh.
So yeah, the Vikings are a whole nother story. But so non-quarterback wrecking of face this week. The Baltimore rushing unit, which includes Jackson, 37 carries for 230 yards, which is a 6.2 average, 1 touchdown. Aaron Jones of the Packers, 18 carries, 168 yards, 9.3 average, and 2 touchdowns. Julian Edelman, 8 catches, 179 yards, and a terrible Bill Belichick call to show for it. Micah Kiser, linebacker for the Rams, 16 tackles, 1 forced fumble. That's what we call a tackle machine. Zach Cunningham, Houston linebacker, 15 tackles, 1 sack. So great performances by all of those players this week. Our next segment is our news stories segment. So our main story has to do with none other than Russell Wilson. But before we get to that, I had a brief story I wanted to bring up about COVID-19, because we all need more of that in our lives right now. The NFL fined 3 coaches and teams for not wearing masks. The NFL has fined several head coaches $100,000 for not wearing face masks on the sidelines, a safety precaution that is required at games during the COVID-19 pandemic. The coaches' teams were also punished $250,000 fines. The coaches were Pete Carroll, Kyle Shanahan, and Vic Fangio of Denver. So my only comment about this, other than just how absurdly high that number is there are 2 kind of ridiculous hypocrisies going on with that level of fine. Number one is those fines, if you think about it, just the Niners incurred a $350,000 fine, is way more than any individual player has ever paid for a devastating injury or inappropriate play, like a foul or flag play in a game. Right.
It would take a crime off the field.
Yeah, or a crime off the field. It takes multiple of those to even come close to adding up to $350K. So that's one thing. And then the next thing is you talk about all the things that the NFL could be doing to preserve player safety, and yet they don't do those things, but they're charging coaches on the sideline $100,000 for not wearing a mask. So I'm sorry, NFL, go look in the mirror and fix yourself, because that is just absurd. Just absurd. So our second story of the day is our Russell Wilson story. I'm gonna let Joseph take this one. It also, we seem to be talking up Russell Wilson and ripping on Bill Belichick a lot in this episode. I'm not sure what's up with that exactly, but I'll let Joseph take this one.
Okay, so article headline says Bill Belichick calls Seattle Seahawks QB Russell Wilson underrated. Now, before we get to the gold mine of absurdity of some of his quotes, and dig deeper into some of his claims, let's just start off what it means to be rated. Let's just, what does it mean to be rated? What does it mean to overrated, underrated? So who considers the ratings? Well, you got to think maybe sports writers, analysts, people in the media, announcers, right? Coaches. Who does not have Russell Wilson in the top 3? How many times over the past several years have we heard about Russell Wilson? All he does is win. He's great. He should be MVP. What do you mean he's underrated? Who, Bill? Who has him outside of the top 3? Who? You're saying the media and the fans. Find them for me, please. Because I think Jeremy and I are the only ones that actually are rating Russell Wilson. I think he's overrated at times. He's good. He's really good. But when people have him already in the top 3, if you're going to say he's underrated, then you're making him the definitive number 1. No one in their right mind is going to make him the definitive number 1. At the very worst, the very least, you have Mahomes. Okay, then with one more year of proven production is Lamar Jackson. Okay, Lamar Jackson repeats similar to what he did last year. He's proven himself. Okay, so that he wasn't a fluke last year. Lamar Jackson's there. Okay, then at the most, you have to have Ben Roethlisberger compete when he's healthy. And then at least one of the three Hall of Fame greats, Brady, Brees, Rodgers, at least one of them, I'm going to put my money on them on average, then Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's good. He's been a top 3-ish to 5-ish quarterback. That's not bad. But to say he's underrated just defies what reality says to where people have him in the sports world and media, and actually undervalues the definition of underrated. So at best, just rated, and at worst, he's overrated. So before we get into some of the claims and absurdity, Jeremy, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I completely agree with everything you're saying. I mean, you'll even have commentators, pundits, journalists saying after week 4, Russell Wilson, is he on track to be the MVP? And then they'll just not when they're playing a game, even if it's a close game, they'll do nothing but just rave about Wilson the entire game. And yet we're hearing that somehow he's underrated by no one.
All right, yeah, exactly. So let's start getting into these quotes. The funny thing is, I'm the one that found this article and sent it to Jeremy, and I only read like the first part of it. I was like, okay, this is already a gold mine. It wasn't until a few minutes ago I actually read some of the claims that Bill made it towards the end, and I was like, Jeremy, I'm like, oh man, I'm on fire right now. I have to dig into this. So let's start here. Well, first of all, let's look at what ESPN stats are and how they're somewhat misleading. Right? Stats can never be misleading, of course. Okay, according to ESPN stats and information, Wilson leads the NFL with 104 touchdown passes since 2017. Brady is next at 87 and is the only quarterback with at least 30 touchdowns in each of the previous 3 seasons. Okay, not bad. Again, that's good. Well, let's see here. Why don't we go back to when Russell Wilson started his career? Belichick's going to look at that in a minute, because then we have to consider guys like, oh, I don't know, Brees, Rodgers, Manning. And let's compare. Then, why are we going back to 2017? Very interesting. Why we're not considering 2018 when, oh, I don't know, Mahomes had his first real season and put up one of the greatest seasons of all time. And even last year, though it wasn't as prolific, did just as much, if not more, than Russell Wilson has done in most of his seasons, and he didn't play the whole season. I wonder about that. Why are we looking at certain seasons specifically? Now let's get into the fun of Bill Belichick's claims. Quote, he can do everything. He's got obviously great leadership, playmaking skills. He plays very well in the most critical situations in the game. His decision-making, running, passing, Belichick said, citing Wilson's 4,022 career rushing yards and 30,056 passing yards. Okay, he does have leadership. And yes, and I will say, I will give him credit here. He is very clutch. Russell Wilson is clutch. And it's because that has helped to balance out his lack of proficient stats, has been that he's been clutch in moments where he's needed to be, and doesn't always have to throw for 300 yards. I'll give him that. This is where it gets crazy. Bill Belichick here again. Quote, his passing numbers are extraordinary. You can put him up against anybody since he's been in the league. Literally anybody in almost any category. Winning percentage is impressive. He's there for every game, never missed a game. He's got a great ability to do the right thing at the right time. He has tremendous vision and sees it field extremely well, end quote. Okay, his passing numbers are extraordinary. False. Give me a metric to say they are. They're not. We'll go over that. They're not extraordinary, Bill. Have you not looked at any stats, or are you just pulling these numbers out of your mind? What's going on here? You can put him up against anybody since he's been in the league. Literally anybody in almost any category. Well, funny you should ask, because that's exactly what I did. Okay, here we go. Russell Wilson, since he's been in the league, here's his average. And he's actually hurts himself a little bit because he's played every game, whereas some of these quarterbacks didn't play every game in the season. So their total stats get lowered. All right. So let's start with, oh, I don't know. Bill, did you forget someone? Did you forget someone you played with for 20 years? Tom Brady? So, yes, Russell Wilson's winning percentage is higher than everyone else I have here except Tom Brady. But shall we forget that he had, I don't know, the greatest or one of the greatest defenses for several years when he started his career? You forget that, Bill? All right, Russell Wilson, 64.5% completion yards, 3,700 passing yards with 28.5 touchdowns, 8.5 interceptions. Tom Brady, a little less completion percentage, 600 more yards, a little more touchdowns, just under a half interception less. Okay, so far Tom Brady is already just a little bit better. Okay, how about Aaron Rodgers? Aaron Rodgers, similar completion percentage, a little bit less yards. He also played less games. 29 touchdowns, 5.8 interceptions. Okay, so he was a little more efficient. So just on par. Oh, our friend Ben Roethlisberger, who averaged 3 games less per season, and yet still manages to put up on average similar amount yards, a little less touchdowns, a little more picks. Drew Brees, 5% more completion percentage, 800 more yards, 5 more touchdowns, and only 3 more picks, and a higher passer rating. Really, Bill? We're going to go with this against anybody? I'm not done yet. I'm going to end here with one more. Matt Ryan. Okay. And again, this is since 2012, since he's been in the league. That was the claim. Not Matt Ryan's best year, but since 2012. Matt Ryan, 3% higher completion percentage, almost 1,000 more passing yards, same number of touchdowns, only 4 more picks. All right, Bill. You're at best ignorant, deceived, and lazy. At worst, you're lying. I can't judge your minds, but those are the options. And I think there's still one more claim I have to rip. Quote, I don't think there's a better deep ball passer in the league in terms of decision making and accuracy. He attacks literally every inch of the field. I will let that last part pass of what the heck that even means. But okay, you know what? How about Big Ben? How about Aaron Rodgers? Did we forget Tom Brady? How about Patrick Mahomes? I mean, is Bill Belichick now a Seattle Seahawks fan? Does he feel guilty for winning the Super Bowl 4 years ago by Malcolm Butler intercepting the ball on the goal line? I mean, what's going on here? I'm done.
I think my theory is that, well, Bill Belichick has been known to talk up his opponents, but my theory is that he's saying these things, which are in some cases outright false, to throw shade at Tom Brady, who he is, upset about the way their relationship ended. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but that's a sort of a fun idea. That's all kind of garbage. And the biggest point about Russell Wilson, and then we'll move on, is that the reason why he gets so much attention is 2 reasons. One is he has seen an inordinate amount of success in his years in the league, mostly due to having several years of a historically good defense. And second, because he is very clutch. And so he will win games with certain plays that if you were to strip those away or strip some percentage of them away and look at the rest of his numbers, they would be, above average to good, but they wouldn't be great or elite. Right? It's really his ability to, and I know this is cliche, and Joseph and I rip on this all the time, but it's his ability to win games in clutch moments that gets him the attention. And then everything else just is looked at with rose-colored glasses because of that.
Well, which is highly ironic because that's the same treatment that Brady got. Before Brady's historic 2007 season when he had Randy Moss, Brady had I think it was 6 to 8 years of just average to above average, quarterback play. But he's already getting the compared to Joe Montana, which is who's already overrated in the first place, but we'll get to that later. Or no, we already got to that a couple years ago.
Yeah, no, what we got to is that Joe Montana is the greatest quarterback of all time.
Yeah. But yeah, so people were saying that Brady's knocking on Joe Montana's doorstep because he had 3 rings in the first 4 years. But before that 2007 season, he didn't really do much as a quarterback. He was good in the playoffs, yeah, and his team was great. And he doesn't not get any credit for those Super Bowl rings. But the problem is when you have success early on, then it's almost like then later success of like your actual individual performance then justifies what people claimed about him in the beginning with the team success, right? And that's obviously flawed. So same thing happened with Russell Wilson, and same thing happened with Tom Brady, which is ironic because Brady was really been better since 2012. That doesn't even include some of Brady's best seasons. And he's like, how much older? So,
Right. And also Brady has also been on lots of Patriot teams that did not have very good defenses.
Yeah.
So that's throw that in as well. So the lesson is, number 1, don't listen to anything Bill Belichick says, especially if you have a helmet on and it's in your ear and it's the final play of a game. And also, Russell Wilson is sometimes overrated. Look at the statistics. Think critically when people make claims about players. Go do your research and you'll find the truth. All right. Commentators say the darndest things. I'm going to lead off this week. The first one, actually both of the ones I have are from the Ravens-Texans game. There's a new nickname for one of the quarterbacks. Dynamic Deshaun.
Didn't hear that one.
And then this one's great. So he says, we talked to the Ravens, specifically Calais Campbell, about their defense. And even though they had a good game last week against Cleveland, he being Calais Campbell, said, we're trying to be opportunistic as a defense. We're trying to get in the end zone. We want turnovers, but we want to score. And I just sat there baffled because I was like, since when is the number one thing that a defense is worried about? If they're not worried about turnovers, if they already think they're getting enough turnovers, since when is a defense worried about whether they're scoring? Like, the happenstance of a turnover and whether or not you then go on to score is such a in-the-moment bang bang decision and play that, like, there's no way that you can plan or coach for that, really, beyond just having good ball skills, I guess. So I just thought that was funny because it was like, you're not, I don't know how you do. Do you guys sit around the room and talk about how you can turn turnovers into scoring? Like, I didn't understand that at all. So that was great.
As if turnovers aren't good enough.
Right. Exactly.
Like, we're not scoring. We're a terrible defense.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. And then I have a couple. So also in the Ravens-Texans game, in the fourth quarter, Lamar Jackson has a run, and the announcer says, Lamar is, quote, slippery as a raindrop. And then Jags at Titans, just frustrating because we will have time to get into it, but Minshew, speaking of bad play calling at the end of the game, that happened here. Anyways, there's a fewish minutes left in the fourth quarter, and it's 2nd and 9, and Minshew throws, and the guy should have caught it, and it was not the best play, but he should have caught it. Doesn't catch it, now it's 3rd and 9, and the announcer says, you've got to take advantage of all the free yardage that the defense will give you.
What?
So that you can end up with, a 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3. It's like, wait a second, okay. If he had caught the ball and got more yards, it would have been because he was open, not because the defense gives you free yards. The defense never gives you free yards. You just make a better play than they do. They're not just saying, hey, we want to make this a 3rd and 4 and a more interesting game. We'll give you 5 yards.
No, you know what really happens? In the meetings during the week when defenses are being prepped by their coaches, the coaches will sit all the guys down and they'll be like, okay, guys, this week we know that we're going to be giving up 100 free yards to the opponent. So the question is, what are we going to do with the other 200? That's great. That's amazing. All right, so we're going to move on to our final segment of the evening, our prediction segment. And we're going to start off with our tricky picks. Last week, Joseph and I were both 5-4 on the tricky picks. So, Joseph, tell us what our tricky picks are going to be for week 3.
All right, first one, Miami at Jacksonville. Which one will be higher, Dolphins turnovers or Jags offensive touchdowns?
That's that's a real insult to the Dolphins. Um, Jags offensive touchdowns.
All right, same. Houston at Pittsburgh. Which will be higher, Watson's total touchdowns or his sacks?
Sacks.
Same. Yeah, they're playing against Pittsburgh, who lit up the Broncos. I think they had 7 sacks against the Broncos. And yeah, Watson's no offense. Okay. All right. Which one will be more? Christian McCaffrey's total yards or all of the Chargers rushing yards, including the quarterback? Remember, we heard the Chargers have a top 5 rushing game. So Christian McCaffrey, his total yards or all of the Chargers rushing?
I'm gonna say Christian McCaffrey.
Same. All right, we're 3 for 3.
That was a tough
Dallas
one, though.
Yeah, it is, because the last 2 weeks the Chargers have led, but Christian McCaffrey has more potential, and he's had some down games. So
I also think the Chargers put up pretty decent run defense numbers too.
Ooh, okay.
So yeah, anyway.
Well, I mean, when Teddy Bridgewater is going to throw for 5,000 yards, some of those have to go to McCaffrey, right?
That's true. They do. They do.
All right, Dallas at Seattle. Who will have the higher combination of receptions and touchdowns? DK Metcalf or CeeDee Lamb?
I'm gonna say DK Metcalf.
All right, I'm going CeeDee Lamb. All right, and this last one is special. It's only going to count as 1 point, though it has 5 picks, but it's wrapped up into one. I realized that we have 2 really cool games going on that have like a cool meta quarterback story. So we have the Packers at Saints, and then the Chiefs at the Ravens. So in one game, you have 2 all-time greats who are slightly on the decline. They're going to be retiring in the next 1 to 3 years, and who are obvious Hall of Famers. And then the other, you have the 2, top 2 quarterback superstars who have Hall of Fame potential, especially Mahomes, but I think Jackson can do it too if he's consistent, who are playing. So some great games. So I wanted to do a bunch of picks worth 1 point combined to highlight some of these cool matches. Okay, so the first one.
Wait, so how's that going to work then? Are you going to get a point if you get the majority of them right?
Yes. Okay. So whoever gets the more of them right will get a point.
Okay.
And if we tie, then we both get a point. So which one? So all of these, right? It'll be which one is more, and I'll say the first combination, second combination. Okay. Weighted average of yards per completion, meaning I'm going to do like actual total yards and yards per completion, not just averaging them, which is false. So weighted average.
Wait, I don't know. What do you mean averaging them, which is false? What does that mean?
Because well, if someone has 4 yards per completion and one has 6, you can't just say that the average is 5. It has to be weighted to the amount of completions, right?
Okay, sure.
So
sure.
So it's a true average, because it's a combo of players. Okay, so the first one is Breeze and Mahomes, or Jackson and Rodgers.
I'm gonna say Jackson and Rodgers.
Okay, going Breeze and Mahomes. All right. Interceptions. Okay, no, sorry, this is okay. What will be higher, Rodgers and Breeze interceptions, or Mahomes and Jackson rushing touchdown? Good one.
Rodgers and Breeze interceptions.
Same. All right. Completions. Total completions. Breeze and Mahomes or Jackson and Rodgers?
Jackson and Rodgers.
Same. I actually changed my mind at the last second there, but I did it before Jeremy did, so we're going with that one.
Cheating.
All right. Number of receivers with the reception combined. So the number of receivers that get a reception and then combining that. Breeze and Jackson or Mahomes, Rodgers. And if you notice, I have been
Wait, you mean number of unique wide receivers thrown to?
Yes. That get a reception. So Breeze and Jackson or Mahomes and Rodgers.
Ooh.
If you notice, I've been switching up the pairs.
Yeah, all 4 of those quarterbacks are known for throwing to a lot of targets. Wait, the combo was Jackson and Rodgers?
No, Jackson and Breeze.
Oh, Jackson and Breeze versus Rodgers and Mahomes.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Rodgers and Mahomes.
Okay, I'm going Breeze and Jackson.
Okay. That was a close one for me.
That is. And then this one's probably my favorite. All right, it's going to be Hall of Famers versus stars. Which will be the highest? Passing touchdowns combined with completed passes of 20 plus yards. Hall of Famers or stars?
Wait, I don't understand the question.
So who's going to have the highest combination of passing touchdowns and 20 plus yard completions? The Hall of Famers or the stars?
What Hall of Famers?
Breeze and Rodgers. Remember the beginning?
Oh, okay. So you're talking. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. It was a way of combining them. Yeah, Breeze and Rodgers or Jackson and Mahomes.
So total touchdowns combined with passing completions over 20 yards.
Yeah, passing touchdowns combined with
passing touchdowns and completions over 20 yards. Well, they're not Hall of Fame yet, Joseph. So how dare you imply that? We have to argue about that. We have to debate whether they deserve it or not. I'm going to say Jackson, Mahomes, the stars.
Same here. Yeah, I think Breeze has been doing less of those, and I think Mahomes is going to have a bunch of those, so we'll see. All right, cool. Well, glad we did that. These are really fun to make. I actually made several more, but I'm going to save them for the coming weeks. These are really fun, so glad we're doing this.
And I'll beat you just because Breeze and Rodgers aren't Hall of Famers. Okay, so our predictions for this week. I have to talk about myself because I'm so great for just a moment. This last week I was 14-2. And Joseph was a pathetic 11-5.
Who was really 13-3, but changed his mind for some reason, and
just so the audience knows that you treated the show as canon.
I treated the show as canon, so I gave Jeremy two more wins.
Yeah. So. Because we know for a fact that Derek Jeter was handed a Golden Glove.
No, he was handed multiple Golden Gloves.
Inside joke. Okay, so so far in this season, I'm 23-9, which is 71.9%. Joseph is 19-13, which is a pathetic 59.4%. So last week, Joseph and I diverged on 3 games: Bengals at Browns, Jaguars at Titans, Rams at Eagles. And I picked up all of those, and I think, Joseph, did you lost all of those, right?
Well, how else would you pick them up if I won any of them? Of course I lost all of them.
Oh, no, that's true. No, never mind. That was a brain fart. You're right. But we didn't...
Hey, you're so high on your winning percentage that you forgot 14 minus 11.
No, I had to count. You're right. No, you're right. I had to think in my head for a second whether it was possible for there to be other games that weren't correct, right? Because there could be games that we both picked, but then the numbers wouldn't work out that way. Anyway, so brain fart. I'm still the winner. So next week, our picks are. I'll start us off with Dolphins at Jaguars. I'm going Jaguars.
Same. We have Bears at Falcons, going Falcons.
Ooh, I'm going Bears.
Go ahead.
Rams at Bills. I'm going Bills.
Same. Washington football team, Browns, going Browns.
Same. Titans at Vikings. I'm going Vikings.
I'm going Titans. This was a tough one. I listed 3 tough games.
Yeah, this is one of those, like, the Vikings have to bounce back this week. This is the only reason I picked them.
Yeah, Vegas at New England. Which, how did the Raiders beat the Saints? Okay, but I'm going New England.
Same.
Close.
Same. 49ers at Giants. I'm going Niners.
I am too, but this is one of those 3 tough games just because of all the injuries, and they're probably down on themselves, and like so they can bounce back.
I think they're gonna spank them.
All right, Bengals at Philadelphia. You know, Burrow had a pretty good second game, and the Eagles have been a little unimpressive. I'm going Bengals. It's a tough one, but I'm going Bengals.
You are gonna lose so many points on the Bengals this year. I'm going Eagles.
Burrow all the way. Hall of Fame City.
Oh gosh.
Right.
Texans at Steelers. I'm going Steelers.
Jets at Colts. Colts.
Oh, interesting. You're not picking your Jets, huh? I'm going Colts too. Panthers at Chargers. I'm going Chargers.
Same. Buccaneers at Broncos. I am going Bucks.
Same. Lions at Cardinals. I'm going Cardinals.
Same, which kind of defeats my sleeper is Detroit. Yeah.
I know.
And then wait, who? I forgot the order here. My turn.
I think
Cowboys,
it's
Seattle. Cowboys at Seattle. Seattle, sadly.
Yeah, same. Packers at Saints. I'm actually going Packers at this one.
I'm going Saints.
Okay.
I'm going Saints.
And
then
our
Chiefs
final game.
At Your turn.
Oh, is it my turn?
Chiefs. My turn. Chiefs at Ravens. Very close. Ravens have a little bit better run game and a better defense. Going Ravens.
Same. Sorry, I cut you off so many times. I'm still drunk over how well I did last week. Okay.
We differed on 4.
Yeah, we differed on 4. Bears, Falcons, Titans, Vikings, Bengals, Eagles, and Packers, Saints. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. Some of those were really tight picks.
I have to win 3 of those 4 to even make ground.
Yes, correct.
Let's go. What's our game of the week?
Yeah, our game of the week is Chiefs at Ravens. This is a Monday night game, so watch with us on Monday night. Bring your thoughts about this game next week. It's going to be a good one. There's really no universe in which this will not be a good game unless the Ravens decide to lose like they lost to the Titans last year in the playoffs.
Which we watched together. That was great.
Yeah, which we watched while eating burgers together, and I enjoyed it. But yeah, I think this is going to be
a game.
Yeah, both actually. So yeah, I think this is going to potentially be. I don't want to talk it up too much, but I think this is potentially going to be one of the better games of the week of the year, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, I mean it's hard. Like you have 2 of the top 4 teams, maybe even 3 teams, and okay, quick. This is unofficial side bet here. What's your probability guess? Do an over under on the chances that one of these 2 teams goes to the Super Bowl. Let's say over under 75%. I'm going over.
I'm going over as well.
Okay, so what's the minimum? What's the percentage then at which you would say, I don't feel comfortable? 85, 80?
I wouldn't go over 90.
Okay, all right. Okay, obviously outside of injuries, those don't count, right? Obviously outside of injuries, yeah, I think 80 to 85%. One of these 2 teams is going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
So, all right, I think you know what? I think we've had enough silly with Belichick and your winning percentage and all this. I think we've had enough. We need to end the show.
With one more reminder before we go into our outro that I was 14-2 last week. That is a wrap, everybody. If you enjoyed tonight's episode or any of our past episodes, please like, share, and subscribe here on YouTube, as those are free ways for you to support our show. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and at the Practice Squad and at Neuralizer_. Just as a reminder, if you've missed past episodes, you can watch or listen to them right here on my YouTube channel. The show is online immediately after we go live, so if you missed any of our foolish banter, you can always rewind and start from the beginning. As always, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.